32 years old. My 22-year-old self graduating from college would have considered that to be ancient. I mean, becoming 30, that's 8 years away. That's double the amount of time that I spent in college, so I have all the time in the world, right? Wrong. So today I'm going to talk about the things that I knew at 22, but didn't realize were actually true until now that I'm 32. And I hope that you will not make the same mistakes that I did. Point number one is to just start. Seriously. Look, analysis paralysis is real. That is like the story of my life. Rather than go and act upon the information that I know, I would choose to instead default to I need to learn more and more about that thing before I'd feel confident enough to start it. This could be applied to this YouTube channel. Perfect example. I thought I wanted to do YouTube as long back as 10 years ago, but rather than just start recording, I instead told myself I am not ready. I don't know enough. But in truth, I knew everything I needed. I just couldn't act upon it. I knew that the time would never come where I would feel ready and to just start anyways, but my mind could not really understand that concept. I thought to myself that I would only win if I would succeed at my wildest dreams at YouTube and be some very large creator. I was more invested in the outcome rather than the journey of getting there. But the journey is just as valuable. Starting even when I wasn't ready would have taught me so many things about doing YouTube, about going to the gym, about a lot of different areas of my life. I just had to start when I was not ready. Just pick one thing that you've been researching or waiting on that you could do today and go and do something very simple working towards that today. Don't put it off any longer. Point number two is to build systems, not willpower. So at first I thought the reason I didn't want to cook or exercise after work is that I spent all day using willpower to do the boring stuff at work that I really didn't want to do. So if I could just have more willpower, then that meant that I would be able to do these things I don't want to do. Seems simple enough, right? Wrong. It is not that simple. Unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried to force myself to have more willpower to do these things, I learned that willpower is a depleting resource. Once it is gone, you must wait one night after sleeping for it to actually be recharged. And so constantly, day after day, I could not ask myself, why am I not exercising to get that body I've always wanted? Why am I not eating in a way that I know maximizes my health? But I learned now that I'm in my 30s that what I actually really needed was systems. Systems that would reduce the amount of willpower I needed, if any, to actually go after these things that I wanted. So for example, a system that I implemented in my late 20s to early 30s was to use 2 hours on my Sunday morning to meal prep breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 5 days a week. So this meant that when I came home at the end of the day, rather than thinking I need to use willpower to go and cook a meal that I honestly is not going to be as tasty as what I can get from DoorDash, I already have a meal waiting in the fridge for me right there. It's very easy for me just to go over there, heat it up, and eat it. I would rotate through 3 different healthy meal options for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that way I never felt bored. Additionally, I went and made myself a non-negotiable that I would do 30 minutes of light exercise after work, even as much as a simple walk, and would leave out my exercise shoes, my walking shoes, right near my bed, so I really could not avoid it when I was coming home and changing after work. And by making it something very simple, it meant that it took a lot less effort than saying, I'm going to go to the gym and lift heavy and be exhausted afterwards. I'm just going to start with a light walk and get into a routine of doing this before I ask more of myself. So ultimately, building systems I realized helped me to move quicker to my goals than relying constantly on this cycle of willpower and then guilt and then need more willpower and then have more guilt and never get anywhere. So look at your own life. What can you start doing right now that you could get more progress to by building some simple system to remove the willpower you need to actually go and do what you know you should do and start building it into your life so that way you can get more progress in a week than you probably have had in the past couple of years toward that goal you've always wanted. The final point number 3, is to do radical self-exploration. It's a long-winded story, but I became a data scientist partly because I felt that that was the expected path for me. Undergraduate in applied math, technical background, that was considered to be the most prestigious, highest paying job that I could get. And I didn't really know if this was for me. And I thought, fine, we'll just go and do this and I will figure everything else out later. And for many of us, we think that we have to follow a path because it's expected of us or because it is the least resistant way to get what we want. Why have to think about the deeper meaning of the work you do in your life or what you actually want out of life when you can say, I'll just go get that job that I know pays well, I know that everyone is going to look up to me for? That's a lot easier than dealing with these big life questions. But that's the wrong frame to ask yourself. What instead you should ask yourself is, what do I really want to do? And am I doing it because I want to do it like intrinsically or because I think someone else instead is hoping that I do it? For example, My entire life, I wanted to go and live abroad in Asia or Europe, but I kept telling myself I can't afford a year or two of teaching English abroad because that would take me off of the expected path to a high-paying career in data science. I felt that I couldn't justify it. All of my tech friends were jumping on the tech bandwagon, and this was back in 2017. So the market was really booming more than it ever had been, and everyone's like, you get on this gravy train now or else you're going to regret it. But what I actually regretted once I finally got that dream job as a data scientist at a large FANG company was that I ended up at a place that I didn't feel I actually really explored and ended up at willingly. I felt that I just fell into it because I was too afraid to actually question what I wanted and explore anything else that piqued my interest. So changing my mind at 26, 28, even 30, I should not have viewed it as something crazy or something like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person. I should have viewed it as I'm accumulating a bunch of life experiences that will make sure that when I am 30, I feel like I'm moving in a direction that I'm happy to move in, versus now at 32, feeling like I'm moving in a direction that for most of my life was outside of my control. So I'm just saying, travel to that place, try that hobby, do something just totally unexpected for someone in your situation, and view it as a growth opportunity that at worst will make for an interesting life experience to talk about with your friends or family, or at best open yourself up to new experiences or a life you could have never envisioned for yourself. So in summary, I don't regret that I learned these three things by the time that I got to be at 32. I just knew most of this information at 22, but I couldn't really bring myself to implement it. I was still too consumed over what everyone else thought of me, what was the safest path to go, and ultimately didn't ask myself, what am I really looking for to get out of life? And this was back in 2017 when I graduated from college, where TikTok didn't exist, Instagram wasn't as large as it is now. There were not nearly as many influencers talking about this online. And so I did not feel that I was doing anything that was out of the ordinary. But that's what I should have been different. I should have done stuff that might have been out of the ordinary for someone of my background, but that would have given me unique life experience and hopefully helped me feel happier when I entered my 30s than I actually felt when I turned 30 a few years ago. So remember, you aren't behind. You are right where you need to be. You can have everything you want in your life if only you have the courage to ask yourself, what do I really want right now? And am I willing to go and get it and build systems into my life to help me achieve those goals?